Good evening. This is the March 20th, 2025 meeting of the Planning Commission. Calling the meeting to order. Would you like to do the roll call?
Commissioner Aspinall?
Here.
Brickner?
Here.
Conigan?
Yes.
Grant?
Here.
Manti?
Here.
Stimson?
Here.
Varga?
Here.
Ware?
Here.
And Chair Treflet.
Here. Okay. I need a approval of the agenda.
I move that the agenda as published be accepted.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. First item on our meeting tonight is a public hearing. Special approval 51-2-2025. The location is 29150 Farmington Road. This is for storing of equipment and pipe to replace broken water mains that have been occurring in Kendallwood, both sides of Farmington Road, south of 13. Proponents here? Just give your name, please. And,
My name is Paul Durazio with Bidigary Contractors.
okay. And please tell us what you want to do.
So we're going to be replacing all the water main in the Kendallwood subdivision, and we propose to use the site for piles of sand, water main fittings, some of the dirt that's going to be excavated, which will then be trucked away.
Anything else?
That's pretty much it. Temporary use for over maybe a couple months.
Okay. We have received transmissions from folks that live in the neighborhood, and there's someone, I'm not going to say a name, but someone was showing us great amounts of dust blowing through the bushes from that site. And one of the things you're going to have to address is no dust. Now,
Yeah.
there's no fire hydrant right around that area, but there's one north of Kendallwood on the east side of, so I don't know, you do a whatever, but
Mr. Chair, can we ask staff to put on, so everybody can see where the location we're talking about up on the screen?
Excuse me, yeah.
this is the old swim club that's
Yeah, go
torn
on, yeah.
down.
Thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? Joe, you can sit down.
Sure, thank you. Yes, so they're proposing a temporary construction staging area for the replacement of water main in Kendallwood sub number 2 and number 4. That's immediately south of the proposed staging site. The application specifies that the time frame would be 7 months that they'd be able to do this. I don't think they think that project will take that long, but they're asking for 7-month time frame. It does look like they're using previously cleared and developed portions of the lot, but we wanted to confirm that. We also wanted to confirm what their proposed hours and days of operation and anticipated employee count was. So this is zoned RA2 single family. Our zoning ordinance has a special land use process for this kind of use, essentially anywhere where it's necessary. It's almost a 4-acre site. And it's surrounded by other RA zoning. There's a regional detention basin to the north, but otherwise it's all subdivisions. The plan shows pretty general areas without noting how far things are set back or identifying a place to park. So that's why we're asking for an anticipated employee count, just kind of roughly figuring like what the activity level on the site's going to be. Circulation through the site comes through the existing driveway, and they're not proposing any lighting. They're not proposing to affect the landscaping. Again, I'd like to confirm that. And we weren't clear on exactly what kind of equipment would be kept on the site in addition to the, the pipe and the dirt. The applicant did just address that. And then you have some special approval standards, items 1C, I through V in on page 3 of that letter, and we can address any of those that you'd like to in detail if you have any questions.
Okay, are you ready? Can you answer those questions?
Yes, as far as the employee activity, 12 to 15 employees, which will be actually working in the sub the whole time on the water main replacement. In the storage area, there'll be an operator with a loader moving dirt around and stuff. Employee-wise, there won't be much activity in the storage area other than dumping material and picking it up. So most of the activity will be in the subdivision.
Are you returning all your equipment to that yard at night?
No, most of it stays barricaded in the subdivision.
Okay. Joe, do you have any other?
The hours of operation, anticipated.
Oh, and the
hours of
hours will run from 7 a.m. to, usually they wrap up by 6, so 7 to 7 to be safe.
Monday through Friday or Saturday?
Monday through Fridays, most Saturdays they'll be out there trying to complete the project, probably not as late.
And you anticipate this going how long?
The pipe installation between 3 and 4 months, and then after that it'll just be restoration of grass and stuff.
And is anybody going to lose their water while you're doing this work?
The only time they'll be losing their water is as we connect each new service.
Okay.
So it'll be very short
put-
terms.
You're putting these pipes on the opposite side of where the current water lines are?
It differs, but the new pipe is all drilled in and tested and not put into service until all that's passed. And then each service is hooked up to the new pipe. So that process is very short. So it won't be big turnoffs of water.
Right, okay. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
My question would be, how far from the construction site is this site located?
Now, we're actually working right up Kendallwood on that immediate street, all through that subdivision.
So you're adjacent to the
Yeah, we're adjacent.
construction project?
We're adjacent to the project.
So the next question would be, and you may not have an answer because it's so close, did you look at any other alternative sites and how far away were they?
Now this one just seemed so perfect.
Being as this is right next to the construction, I understand, but that's what I like to ask. Okay.
Barry?
Does the fact that this is right next to the subdivision, is it going to help it finish quicker?
It won't shorten any days, I don't think, but
No, I'm saying,
it's just more efficient.
if you were off-site, would it take you longer to do the same project?
It might add an hour each day. It'll make the days longer. Overall project, maybe, an extra week or something.
How big is the pipe? I mean, what's the diameter?
Most of it in this project is 8-inch diameter.
Oh, so it's not real big?
No.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else? Okay,
So,
go ahead.
we just have concerns about the dirt and stone from the neighboring properties. What mitigation will you be putting in place to support the neighbors?
At the site or through the property?
So, will you have silt fencing, or will
Oh,
you be
yes.
wetting materials down?
Silt fencing along that minnow pond drain. And of course, water trucks to control the dust.
Okay. All right, anybody else? I'm going to open the public hearing. You can have your seat back. I'm going to open the public hearing if you wish.
John, one question. Is this a discretionary project or is this a required project?
It is a contract with the city.
And the city mandated that this needed to be done?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, there's been
Thank you.
two breaks.
This is a city of Farmington Hills project.
This is a
They're the-
city project.
They're the contracted
Oh,
contractor.
So it's a
Building it for
mandated,
the city, yes.
we got a problem,
Yeah, replacing the
Improve
com-
infrastructure, and we need to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, open the public hearing. If you come up to the microphone, please give your name and what street you're on, not the number. You have 3 minutes.
Name is Dan Harmon. I'm at 28954 Kendallwood Drive, which is the seventh house on the left when you come in from Farmington Road. When that was being used during the Farmington Road resurfacing, you know, diesel engines were firing up between like 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning. Trucks would start moving around, beeping would start going on. I just heard that the proposed time for this project is starting at 7 o'clock, when I'm assuming they'll start moving pipes around and firing up diesel engines and stuff. Is there any way to move that to 8 o'clock? I mean, is that gonna, it's just an early time to
Yeah, I know, but
get up in the morning,
I had this done on my street in 2020, and yes, they start early and they make noise and the beeper goes off and everything else. But now I have a brand new water system and new sewer and new gas line. So it was COVID, so that's what I watched, was my front yard, was COVID.
so just start my day early.
Yes, yeah, I think, and it's only to help you, you're aware of the water main breaks that have been taking place.
Well, it has not happened around my house. I did see the project going on at Kendallwood 1.
Yes,
This is a mess
Yes.
in the subdivision while it's going on.
Yes.
So
yes, it is.
I hope I like it when it's done.
I hope you do too. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else,
Go ahead. You're closing.
I'm going to close the public hearing.
Right.
Back to the commission. Joe?
Well, I just wanted to say to the gentleman who seems to be leaving that, if they were to start work before 7:30, I would encourage them to call the Public Works later that day and lodge a complaint, and I'm confident that the feedback would get to the contractor. Sir, do not hesitate if they start before 7:30, if we approve a 7:30.
7.
Or 7, if they start before 7, like you said, they were starting at 6:30, call Public Works, complain, all right?
In the past projects, I've noticed usually there are people from Farmington Hills driving around the subdivision.
Engineering.
Yeah,
Communications is usually pretty good.
all right.
Okay.
Just wanted to say.
All right. Anyone, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Who made the motion?
No, I'm sorry, maybe we got to make a motion before we vote on the motion. I'm just trying to, we got a long agenda tonight.
Yes, right here. You want it?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
I move that special approval 51-2-2025 dated February 11th, 2025, submitted by Brigadier Contractors Jordan Brigadier, be approved, subject to all the applicable provisions of the zoning chapter for the following reasons. Use would not be injurious to the district and environs. The effect of the use would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the zoning chapter. The use would be compatible with existing uses in the area. The use will not interfere with orderly development of the area, and the use will not be detrimental to the safety or convenience of vehicular or pedestrian traffic, and that they be adhered to the starting at 7 o'clock and ending by 7 o'clock each day.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay. You're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is one-family cluster option qualification 1 of 2025. The address is 28,000 9 Mile. Is the proponent here? This is Boys Republic. Anybody?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Ren Nushai. I represent Wellspring Lutheran. And this is Mr. Jim Butler. We're here obviously advocating for the cluster development. Jim will answer any technical questions you have. We think this is an incredible project. It's a great opportunity, obviously, for a beautiful site, and we look forward to your discussion and any questions you may have.
Jim, you want to say something?
Yes, good evening. Jim Butler with PEA Group. Our address is 1849 Pond Run, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326. Before you tonight, you have an application for a cluster option development on the parcel. It's approximately 79 acres. At this point in time, we're looking at developing the frontage along 9 Mile Road. Contains about 16 acres. The proposal is for 13 4-unit buildings, so a total of 52 units. Access will be from essentially the same drive location that sits there today. The site, the front part of the site has some pretty significant topography. If anyone's ever been out there, it all kind of flows down to the river, large stands of trees. There are some wetlands and floodplain areas. So pursuant to your requirements for cluster qualification, we are looking at the item related to the natural features and floodplains, and then the amount of topography that's on that site for qualifications. These are single-story big units, fourplex units. We've situated the buildings in such a manner that it utilizes the top of the hill on those sites, so we don't have significant impacts in putting buildings into the slopes. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Aye, go ahead.
Yes, hi. So I believe we, as a planning commission, have discussed this site as one that is difficult to develop, and that one of the big problems is that would be the need for a bridge in order to develop north of the creek. As I understand it, the development you're proposing is just to the south of the creek without a need for the bridge.
Without a need for a bridge at this time.
Yeah. What's the long-term plan for the area north?
Well, at this particular point in time, obviously Wellspring is, we're pursuing, we have a mission, and we're pursuing that mission. That this development, the portion of the development that we're presenting to you, fulfills that mission. We're looking. Wellspring deals with senior services, lots of services, but among other senior services. The longabout path, to answer your question, is there is no plan currently. Obviously, this is, for our nonprofit, this is a lot of financing, so it'll require some additional time to even begin considering the north end.
So, as I understand it, in considering whether or not we qualify this for a cluster, we are doing so for a reason, and one of the reasons is the preservation of open space and the tree stand that used to have the ropes through it and all that, right? But right now, I'm sort of looking at our attorney. Right now, we're not establishing exactly what that trade-off is. We're not establishing how much to preserve. We're just saying that this is qualified so that we can have those discussions in the future.
That's right. That's my understanding of your ordinance as well.
Okay?
Through the chair.
Yes.
That is correct.
I, of course, looked at Tom through the chair also.
I can feel it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. I look forward to those discussions.
As do we.
Anyone else with a question? Oh, I have a question. Right now, you currently have buildings on the north side. You have a pool, I assume is empty. Does it hold water?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so it's just a half. Do you have any plans on tearing down those buildings?
Yes, we do.
Tearing out the pool?
Yes, we do. I mean, there's currently, some of the buildings are currently occupied. We're moving the people, the kids are occupying them. We're moving them to a newly renovated facility in another city. And once that happens, obviously before construction, we're going to do all that.
Do you have another question? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to open the public hearing. What? I'm sorry, Joe, you're out of sight again, I'm sorry.
Right, so we're looking at cluster qualification here. Again, it is for that front portion south of the Rouge of this parcel. That area up there where you see the track and stuff, that's not part of this proposal. The total parcel is a little over 79 acres. So it's got RA1 zoning primarily around it. It's all single family. There is some RA4 zoning to the south, also single family. And the site's accessed from 9 Mile Road. There's no alternative means of access. So Section 317 of our ordinance covers the one-family cluster option. So qualification for the cluster option is based on 2 findings by the Planning Commission, and the final density is dependent on whether or not the site qualifies under both findings. So the Planning Commission has to find that the parcel will qualify for the cluster development option as defined under, there's a big long section number there, I'm not going to say it. Development would be made at single-family densities permitted in subsection A. And that finding has to be made in all cases. And we've addressed that below. So if you make a finding under A, they get 1.8 units per acre for a one-family cluster in the RA1 district. And then there's an additional finding that you can make that the parcel is located in a transition area or impacted by non-residential uses or traffic on major or secondary thoroughfares or other similar conditions. If the Planning Commission makes that finding, then it can permit an increase in density up to 3.1 units per acre. So moving on to those standards on the next page, page 3. I've highlighted 2 of them. So one is number 6, the parcel contains a floodplain or poor soil conditions which result in a substantial portion of the total area of the parcel being unbuildable. There is a river running through this. And then finally, number 8, there, the parcel contains natural assets which would be preserved for the use of cluster development. Such assets may include natural stands of large trees, which you were just talking about, land which serves as a natural habitat for wildlife, unusual topographic features, or other natural assets which should be preserved. The Planning Commission has to find that at least one of those conditions on that list of 8 there exists in order to qualify the property for the one-family cluster option. Property is crossed by a branch of the Rouge River, and the proposed development is entirely south of the river. Preliminary qualification is not a guarantee of approval of the final cluster site plan. Moving on to the conceptual plan that was included in the application, there's a concept plan showing 52 units. That's over 4 buildings, 13 buildings, each with 4 units in it. That number of units nets out to 0.67 units per acre over the full acreage of the site. Qualification under option B wouldn't be necessary to permit that number of units on a site this size. The plan shows 2 connections to 9 Mile Road along with the preservation of an existing bridge that leads across the river to facilities in the site's interior. Wetlands on the site are mostly avoided by development. There is a portion of wetland C that's placed in a culvert on the western side of the site. The detention pond on the concept plan in the site's southeast corner does encroach into a small portion of existing wetland. Full review of a cluster site plan would occur at the next stage of the approval, but I didn't want to call those things out tonight because those are some of the challenges that the developer is dealing with. Plans do identify 2 common areas. There aren't pedestrian walkways or sidewalks shown on the plan. The master plan designates this site for flex residential. It's the Boys and Girls Republic Special Residential Planning Area. And flex residential does have a description in the master plan. I won't read it word for word just for the sake of time, but if you want to talk about any of the details there, we certainly can. The master plan also makes some specific recommendations for the site, and I will read those. Given the size of the site and quality of its natural features, future redevelopment should be concentrated as much as possible in the previously cleared portions of the site. Additional height may be permissible near the center of the site if existing woodland is preserved at the site's perimeter. In addition to residential uses, large-scale outdoor recreation uses could be considered for this site, though those too should be well buffered from adjacent neighborhoods and designed to minimize further reduction of the site's natural features. Consideration may also be given to providing access for adjacent neighborhoods to any shared open space provided in a redevelopment plan. There is potential for some land to be acquired for use as a park. By and large, the proposed development occurs in previous areas of development. It would mark an increase in the overall level of development in those areas. The residential densities map designates this land as flex residential with low to medium density to the northeast and west and medium density to the south. And then finally, they did submit a tree inventory. That is an older tree inventory from a previous submittal that will have to be updated to note, what trees are going to be removed under this scope of work if they do proceed to a final cluster plan.
That's it?
That's it for me. Yep.
Thank you very much. Mr. Butler, did you get the letters from Giffords and City Engineering?
Yeah, we've got the letter from Giffords. We got the letter from your engineering department
And the fire.
and the fire department as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure you were up to speed. Okay,
We did.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing.
Question.
I'm sorry, what?
I've got a question for staff.
Okay,
Okay, real quickly, Joe, on, when looking at the 16.3 acres, is that the,
That's a
that-
paragraph that's not supposed to be in that review, and I apologize for that.
but when you're calculating the numbers of how many units could go in this based on pieces 1 and 2, is that just the land below, the land that we're considering here, or is this the whole entire?
We're looking at the whole parcel here.
Okay. Will, I guess, looking forward, is that going to cause issues if, 5 years down the line, they want to develop the other side? We've done this based on the numbers for the whole thing, and we've already, what, I guess, will this preclude doing something in the future versus considering just below the creek?
Let's say you make a finding under just A and not B. That would allow them to go up to 1.8 units per acre. So they'd have some headroom based on what they were building now for a certain number of additional units. But what they do now would constrain what they can do in the future across the whole site.
If considering just below the creek, looking at just this portion of the property, what does that work out to be? How many units per acre? Because to me, it's sort of almost like it's 2 parcels.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up because I don't have the number at hand, but it is a good question, and I'll.
To me, it
see
doesn't
if I
look
can-
that dense,
Right.
just looking at it this way compared to a lot of the other clusters we've looked at. And that's why I thought it might be just considering the acreage here for the lower portion of the parcel.
Yeah, let me look that up while you're doing your other stuff, and I'll come back with an answer for you.
okay. Anyone else? Barry?
Basically, I had the same question as Steve, because if it's based on 16 point, whatever it was, 8 acres, at 1.8 units per acre, it would be around 30, so this is a little less than 30, so that was my question also, is, are we looking at just the lower end than for now, or are we doing it based upon 16 acres they're asking to develop? Because they're looking to do it under I as versus to II, and under I would be less amount of units. If they're basing it on the whole thing, then they'd be restricted as to what they're doing in the future. And the other question I asked is the northern portion of this 80 acres, is it even developable, or is it? I understand why they're asking for cluster option. There are wetlands and there are streams running through it, and they obviously can't build on the wetlands or the streams unless they get Eagle permits, and I don't know that's really up in the as an option in the future. But is the northern portion of this 80 acres even usable?
Strictly speaking, yes, it is. I mean, it is in use. There's stuff built up there. It's usable at a cost, though, because there is the access issue, and it's challenging. It's very challenging. How it is usable, though, strictly speaking.
Anything else?
Well, then I guess we have to ask the city attorney.
The city attorney's not going to have an answer tonight for just the qualification. I mean, if you're asking sort of just generally whether or not the property at the north end of the site is developable, probably, yeah.
No, my question is if they're only asking to develop 16 point some odd acres, and they're basing it on 1.8 units per acre, they're actually, the number that they're showing on the paper is like 38 units, and by my math, and I think Steve had the same problem, it's not that high, it's 38 units, but I know they have a lot more area out there. So
I think between now and when you have if you qualify it tonight, when you get to the next step in the process, those kinds of details will be hashed out.
okay. Yeah. So all we're doing is qualifying it for.
We're just qualifying it.
They have to come up with plans later. Okay, I got you.
Well, I guess my issue is, it's a good question regarding the density. Is there a density benefit to the south, or is there more density in the south using the north property? Is the density reflected in this conceptual plan based on future development of the north?
Well, so it's roughly 18-ish acres south of the river from what I'm seeing here. And that comes out to about 2.3. So it's within that B qualification if you were if this was a separate parcel, which of course it's not. But if you consider the permitted density across the whole site, you're going to take a chunk of the available units with this development, and then you're going to have a limited potential in the future based on that density spreading across the whole site.
So from my standpoint, given that we have to kind of designate a density based on whether they qualify, that complicates matter. And I don't know if this is ready for prime time yet, because if there's density to the south that would otherwise be to the north on a future project, I don't know how we can designate a density level for the overall cluster. I'd almost like to see them almost separately segregated, the south and the north.
Joe?
As I understand it,
Yeah.
there are 8 criteria that we look at in determining whether or not something qualifies. All we're doing is, does it qualify tonight? 2 of those criteria are highlighted for us. One of the criteria is, does it have natural stands of large trees, which it does, and natural habitat for wildlife, and unusual topographic features, which I think it does. The other criteria is criteria 6 out of the 8. That one says the parcel contains a floodplain or poor soil conditions which result in a substantial portion of the total area, we all know now what the total area is, being unbuildable. So my question is, substantial portion, what is the portion of the total lot that is unbuildable? so that I can address that question. Do we know?
Mr. Butler, do you want to take a swing at that?
Do I know that number definitively? No. If I calc it, yeah, I could probably calc it. But do I know what's unbuildable right in front of you today? I can't tell you that. But I could.
So the thoughts that go through my mind is tonight, you would have a really good chance of qualifying under the 8th criteria for further discussion, but not a real strong argument for number 6, because we don't have a number we need. Okay? For right now. If we don't have that number at this meeting and you wanted to use that criteria, if that is important to you, then I would suggest that after we hear the public and all that, we might want to make a final determination later, because I don't want to make a decision on whether or not you meet 6 without knowing what the proportions are.
But if you read 6, just reading it verbatim, like it says,
Verbatim.
The parcel contains a floodplain, or, doesn't say and, it says or.
Well, to say that any parcel with a floodplain qualifies for for this is, I'm sorry, I can't say it on TV, okay? So the way to read this is floodplain or poor soil conditions, clearly in my mind.
I have another question for you.
Sure.
Eagle was mentioned tonight. Have you been in touch with them?
We have not been in touch with them. We had the delineation confirmed. Our office did that delineation. This is an older survey that was completed by another firm. We've delineated and confirmed the boundary.
So you're not touching it, so you're not going to get Eagle involved?
Well, I think we're probably going to have, there's a small portion of that detention basin that will need to have Eagle involved. And then where we're crossing, we're not going to be touching it, but I'm sure we're going to have a conversation with Eagle.
Okay.
And we also have stormwater discharges that will be outside of the wetlands, but that's also a minor permit that we have to deal with them.
Anybody else? Yeah. Barry?
Joe? I was doing my math based upon what was in your report. And it was showing 1.8 units for the I, 1.8 units per acre. But I'm looking at the other sheet, and it's talking about 2.6 units per acre, which would match the 42 that was talking about in our material that was sent to us. So which one is it 2.6 or 1.8?
1.8 is what's permitted with the qualification under the first standard. If they qualify under the second standard, it goes up to 3.1.
Yeah, but we have another sheet that's saying 2.6, so.
There's 2.6.
And if it says the 42 units they're saying are available would go along with the 2.6 per acre versus the 1.8 per acre. So
Oh,
that-
just please disregard that paragraph. It's
So
erroneously in this.
which one's are right and which one's are wrong?
2.6.
Okay.
Where the figure's coming from, so I would disregard the figure in the motion in that case.
Okay.
Eric, do you know?
I believe the figure was included in the motion erroneously, the 2.6 number. That's where that comes from, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, because,
The 3.1 is the correct figure.
yeah.
That's
3
in
point-
Joe's report.
Yeah.
No, 3.1 is if we use the second option. What the first option was it's either 1.8.
It's 1.8.
1.8 or 3.1.
Yeah, I don't know where the 2.6 came from.
This sheet's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay,
The figure in the motion is incorrect. Exactly.
yeah, okay. That does make a difference. Thank you.
Joe?
I just want to clarify for everyone that when I say number 8, they're saying number 1. So number 8 allows for a certain amount of density that is elsewhere cited in a first paragraph, item I or item 1. Then item 6, The sixth criteria that I cited allows for even additional density. And that's being referred to as item 2 or something like that by the other people, okay? And so the question here is, because the one that involves substantial portion is the paragraph that allows a greater density, okay? If anyone was confused out there, because I was confused sitting here, okay?
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Step up here and give your name and the street you live on, please. And you have 3 minutes.
On behalf of Elizabeth Cook, I'm Carrie Cook at 23320 Glen Creek Drive in Farmington Hills on the north side. That would back up right. I was understanding that some of that land was donated because it wasn't being able to build on it at some point long time ago, but I wasn't sure. So we're on a well. So you put all this in. I would like to know, how does that affect my well for our neighborhood? We're on a community well.
You're on Watt Street.
A community well on Glen Creek Drive, on Old Farm Colony. That's a community well, that whole neighborhood.
Okay.
Then I wanted to show you a couple pictures of your other neighborhood. Has no trees, no buffer zone, no nothing at the end of my street. That guy starts his car, it shines all the way down our street. There's no buffer. And then all of the lots are nice, high lots. They're not like shoved on top of each other. And if you're gonna do anything two-story on the north side, there should be a big buffer zone for us to be protected against them, because you see, there is not one already that you guys proved up before. And also,
Do you want to enter that into the record?
and then whatever you do to the first one is probably gonna happen on the back side. So whatever you approve on the first, whatever you wanna call it, it's gonna have to look the same on the second. So be very careful of what you're going to approve on that first one.
Okay. Do you want to enter those pictures into the record?
They're just I got a couple of them.
You want to label them? Because they won't have a reference to the...
Of the neighborhood, and how the new neighborhood on the other side has no buffer zone. I mean, this right up against no trees, they cut them down, they cut the bushes down. It's like they die, no one they just let things die because they don't want them, and then we're not protected.
Could you give me your name one more time?
Carrie Cook?
With a K?
Yes, Kerie. And then, so I just worried about our well, and just keep in mind, whatever you do on the first, it's gonna look like that on the second, probably.
Okay. Anything else?
So be very careful.
Thank you.
My name is Ray Matson. I'm a partial owner of I'm partial owner of 23008 Watt Street. It's the furthest house back on the plan on the north side. I live between, or the house is between, if you look on your map there, then the north side on the west, I think it's the fourth lot down. The house is 25 feet from the borderline. Also, I was born, well, I wasn't born there, but I was raised at that address. I still have interest in that address. And to let you know, if you don't already know, the Boys Republic used to take all of their garbage and they would take and dig a trench north of the track field and deposit all of their garbage or whatever they deposited in that area. Now, they may have deposited it in other areas in the north that I'm not aware of, but as a kid, we used to take and watch them dump the stuff in there, and then we would go up there and root through it to see if there was anything we could use for building a fort or whatever. But you may not be aware, but they did dump their garbage here for many years. And I was there till went into service, so I lived there, so I knew it. We kept an eye on it. And it's a fairly density, a lot of big trees in that area. And the biggest thing I think is, you know, they're just talking about the south area, but the north area, to me, is a prime piece of real estate that really should remain as like a natural forest or a park or something like that, because it's heavily wooded. But I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware of the dumping of the garbage. Like I say, I don't know, as a kid, I don't know what they actually dumped there, but they did dump they may have used other sites, because they used to chase us off if they seen us out there, but like I say, we were just kids. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, good evening. My name's Gina Doty. I submitted a dissertation with videos. I live 3 houses to the north of Wellspring. And I kind of outlined everything in there, but some other concerns, and I do have some questions about what is going in. But living right off 9 Mile, the traffic there already, when it's rush hour especially, backs up, because everybody wants to turn onto Middle Belt. So I know this is just preliminary, but in the long term, the traffic there would be crazy. Yesterday, I have to turn into my driveway. I literally almost always get hit from the back because people aren't paying attention. So if you've got people turning into this new cluster home, whatever it's going to actually be called, I'm not sure, that has to be addressed too, because traffic both ways. There's school buses that have to be considered as well. I lived in Tucson for quite a while, and there was something similar, and there's 2 entrances, or annex. It was an exit and entrance, and it was a nightmare because people in the morning trying to go to work were all trying to get out, and people trying to get in the same way I tried to get into my house, backed up traffic. So that's another concern. The biggest concern too is the wildlife, and I think I sent some videos. If you haven't been out to the area, I mean, you're welcome to come visit our neighbors as well. It's so beautiful back there. And my questions are, these cluster homes, are they going to be for individual families? Are they for senior citizens? Both? I'm not sure if y'all can address that. And I know right now there are children, I guess, that are housed there. And I don't know if that's going to continue with the housing, or I'm not sure the whole concept. So that's just kind of some of my questions. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Derek Gasco, and I actually live at 28005 West 9 Mile, so I am right across the street from this. I'll try to be quick about this. I mean, a previous member of the public just said a lot of concerns that I have, mainly the wildlife and ecological impact on this. I mean, the house I live in now was my grandmother's house originally, so I spent a lot of weekends here as a kid. Loved seeing that field across the way. Loved seeing the deer run around. Loved seeing them run into our yard and eat all our plants. But, yeah, honestly, I am not a big fan of the idea of a residential development popping up here. Again, as the previous member of the public stated, I can attest that traffic on 9 Mile does get incredibly crazy. I have to turn right into my driveway every single day, and almost every single day someone comes down going like 10 miles over the speed limit about to ram me in the back. So I'm a little bit concerned about increased traffic congestions for sure, and Well, basically going forward, I would not mind, and I know this might be a bit of a pipe dream to lay out there, but I wouldn't mind seeing that land turned into some sort of public park, you know, somewhere for the kids to go to in my neighborhood. Even if it was possible, perhaps maybe developing the residential area north and making the park to the south closer to the road, if that was at all possible. Kind of a best of both worlds situation, but all in all, not crazy about the prospect of new unknown neighbors either. Not crazy about the prospect of increased traffic congestion. Definitely not crazy about no longer being able to come home and, you know, find a random doe or even a buck in my backyard before he makes eye contact with me and then leaps across 3 different fences to get away from me. So those are just kind of the concerns I have. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Daryl Youngquist, Spring Valley Drive. I'm on the east border of the property. I don't, you know, a lot of great concerns have been brought up. The well certainly is great importance to us. Traffic is a bit. My, you know, main concern is, you know, the development north of the river is where I'm more concerned about because that would most affect me. There are currently, I think, 3 structures on the south of the river right now, and there's several big trees in there, so that whole area would have to be raised, and then this structure would go up with a lot more non-permeable surfaces that would run into the detention pond, run into the drain, the Rouge drain there. And maybe my concern is that the detention pond's not quite large enough to handle that extra amount of surface or to hold it long enough. Certainly worried about, you know, oil and things like that getting into our groundwater. The other thing that I was a little concerned with is mention of access to adjoining neighborhoods, and us in Spring Valley, we really love, no one knows we're there. We would not want access to our neighborhood attached to that. I'm sure others wouldn't want that either, but we really wouldn't want that. And right now the trees are very high. They have very high canopy. So they're, you know, from a satellite view, it looks like it's very wooded, but from a ground level view, it's, you know, see-through all the way through there. So, you know, I know progress, you can't stop progress, but maybe we can kind of shield a little bit. So on the north and northeast areas of that development, you know, to put up some stands of privacy, spruce or, you know, western arborvitae, something that the deer won't eat. And if you want deer, you can have all the deer I got coming.
I'm sorry, they eat our arborvitae all the time.
Well, this is western arborvitae, the cicadas. Yeah, they still are browsing it, but not as much. And then, you know, you're concerned about using the density of that area versus the entire site. And then the future developments, at least the plans that we saw a few years ago, had some 3-story buildings, which are in that wooded, you know, the spruce wooded area, and then some other further down. So what does that do with your density per acre calculation? Would they, you know, I'd love it if actually they can build right there and they can't build the rest of it. That'd be awesome. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing the neighbors to talk about this. My name is Douglas Smith. I live on 22741 Watt Drive, so we are just west of the development and slightly north. My concern is 3 things. Number 1, several people have mentioned how much they love the wildlife, and I certainly concur with that. So anything that's done to preserve as much of the natural area would certainly be appreciated. But secondly, I have 2 concerns, and this is what this area on the south side of the river. Number 1, one of the people who spoke previously mentioned having barriers, natural barriers, trees, shrubbery, that sort of thing, that was, in her case, taken out. And I'm curious to know if the plan would have barriers put in. I don't think, from my perspective and where we live, that the river itself is really a barrier. If there's a construction zone there, it's going to very much affect where we live. And secondly, it's hard to tell on the drawing just how close the development is coming to the edge of the river. And because there's a big ravine there, right? So it's not just where the river itself is. There's a big ravine there as well. So how close to that ravine is the construction going to be? Right, I know, I see the drawing, but it's hard to get a perspective of exactly how big that is. So I certainly, obviously, from my perspective, more space is better, right? So I hope that the commission takes that into account. And thanks once again, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is John Pruitt. I live at 28570 9 Mile Road. I'm the second house from the edge of the property on 9 Mile Road. Along with the issues that have been brought up by other people, I'm wondering about infrastructure, electrical, water, sewers, which I don't think exist, and protection for the river during construction and for rain runoff if and when it's built. How is that going to be protected? Because that kind of runoff would definitely pollute the creek. Along with traffic, it's an issue. It is an issue now. Adding another 50 to 100 cars coming out of there on a daily basis will create a problem. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
We normally have an engineer, but we couldn't get one tonight, but there is documents that you can ask for from the city engineer has written a report that details a lot of the stuff you're interested in. Okay. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, you will be notified. Yes.
Yeah, this is a multi-public hearing process.
Yes, we'll be talking, you and we will be talking about this for a while, yes. Anyone else? I'm going to close the public hearing otherwise. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Back to the commission.
I have a question for the attorney. There is a plan here that I think people have seen. In answering the question before us today, whether or not this site meets the qualification, are we considering this plan in any way, manner, or form?
Let me see if I can find the language on what they're obligated to submit. Hang on.
You know, while you're thinking about it, my understanding is we're answering a simple question of whether or not they qualify with any of these standards, and we've narrowed it down to 2. And we're going to say yes or no on those 2 standards, and that's all we're deciding today, and then they come back later with a plan for us to consider.
So they were obligated under the ordinance language to submit an indication of what they intend to do. Your action is 2 separate things. The first is to determine whether or not it qualifies and under what provision. So you talked about number 8, but that's action number 1.
Okay.
And then the second action you may or may not take, and that's whether or not it qualifies for the enhanced density, which is a separate question, which you'll have to decide. So you're not looking at this plan?
Not looking at this
Yeah,
plan.
so when it comes back, you're going to be looking at the engineer's concerns about what's happening with the rest of the site. You're going to be looking at how much property they have to encumber to meet the density that they're proposing. You're going to be telling them, you need to show us what you're giving us some kind of conservation easement or open space easement over.
Or park.
So all of that kind of detail is gonna be, not a public park, we're not,
Right, a public park.
no. So those are the things that we're gonna be talking about in detail. This is theoretical, but hopefully a serious attempt to show what they wanted to do.
They have basically demonstrated that they can do something, and that's all that this plan satisfies.
Yes, Danielle?
I have a question for the developer, or Wellspring. When you acquired the property, or maybe you don't know this, but how long had the property been dormant?
I don't know that I know the answer to that question, but I don't believe dormant is the term. I think it's been occupied all along, and it continues to do so.
Okay, that's good for me to know, because I didn't know that, so that's helpful. So the property is currently active
Yes, ma'am.
with people living there, and it has been for maybe 100 years? I don't know, maybe less, I don't, okay.
1893.
Since 1893, the property has been active?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it. So then, I'm just trying to wrap my head around, is it that in your development, you are wanting to utilize more space than has previously been utilized?
Well, not necessarily, ma'am. I don't think that's, and I think that's, again, as your attorney, as Mr. Tangari indicated to you, and some of you have indicated as well, today is not that conversation. Today, the conversation is, do we qualify?
Maybe, but I'm trying to wrap my head
No,
around.
absolutely, and I think that's fair. And we're going to go into those details at length come the next hearing, where we'll be prepared. We'll show the detailed drawings of exactly the use of the land that you're going to have down to feet. For example, one of the questions that was asked earlier was, what is the distance? Well, you're going to be able to see the distance. I mean, I can estimate it at least at the closest building being about minimum 50 feet away, the closest point, touch point, minimum, but we'll know that for sure. But as far as the encumbering of the land, this is the maximum that you're going to see. With respect to the north, and this perhaps does address, but also a question that will be addressed further down the road at the next hearing, there is a total amount of units per your ordinance, per the application of your ordinance, that can be built here. If we build whatever, the 52 that we have here, perfect. The total calculation will limit us then, the number 52 here will limit as to what we'll do up above whenever that time comes. So at the end of the day, there isn't a way for us, again, per my understanding of your ordinance, my review of your, I'm an attorney, per my review of your ordinance, and I should say, I'm a municipal attorney, among others. I do what Mr. Schultz does in a community down the road with your Mr. Tangari, among others. And I deal with this stuff quite a bit. And my review of it tells me that there's a maximum number that we're going to be able to encumber, probably a lot of space in the back that will be preserved, a lot of those enhanced features that we're talking about will be preserved by just natural application of wetlands, river, tree canopy, the whole 9 yards. And I think the concerns that the neighbors have, which are reasonable, and I know that a body like this one hears all the time, I think are going to be addressed with this particular development far better than any potential development that you could possibly see here. And I know that this has been before this board on previous occasions, on a couple of times. And I know that if you go back, this will be eminently, infinitely a better use of this parcel. And I think the neighbors, when looking back, would appreciate this development above and beyond any other potential development, and even really current use.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Harry?
Before you run off,
I'm
they
here.
asked some questions. I'll ask you the questions because they don't know the answers.
Yes, sir.
I have a engineering report here. You're planning on using city water, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's already city water on that premises?
Yes, of course.
And you're planning, and the city sewer is also connected to the premises, correct?
Of course, it's operational. I mean, there's kids living there.
So people were asking the question, they didn't know the answer. The answer is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There is city water,
No.
and there is city sewer. You're not going to be going into
Of course
someone's.
Thank you for asking that again. Actually, that's a valid point. Thank you. Yes, of course.
They asked the question, I'm just.
No,
You're the answer man, so you can, I mean, I
Try.
know what the answer is, I can look it on my sheets here, but that the point, they were concerned about that that's being taken care of.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
One other point I'd like to make is that there was a question about what you can build there. This whole area is zoned RA1, which is residential. And it's actually big home residential or smallest uses per acre residential.
Yes, sir.
And they're asking to basically fit within that under the qualification. But it is already zoned RA1, so if it's going to be used for homes, that's allowed under our ordinances. That's what it's for.
That's about 2 units per acre, just for reference. To the south is RA4, which is 5 units per acre, just so people know what the universe is around this site. So north, south, or northeast and west, you can do about 2 units per acre.
Yeah.
And to the south, you can do 5.
And I think that meets with we've done that calculation as well. That's about correct, I think, as far as the maximum number. I think they'll jive. Thank you, Joe.
Angie?
My question is, earlier you mentioned about Eagle. Had they reviewed the information, and the answer was no. So pardon me?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, please.
Okay, so my question was, should we wait to determine qualification until after Eagle has reviewed?
But I think we're putting the cart before the horse, if I may.
Okay.
We can't do that unless we have something to show to them. So I think this cluster qualification and the actual plans have to be approved before we can even do so. Otherwise, I don't know what they would be reviewing. Conceptually, or just a hypothetical, we won't be able to submit it, unfortunately.
But assuming that was actually a question over here, we agree that you should proceed, and we'll hear from Eagle later.
The bad habits, but yes, thank you.
If I may, undevelopable means it's in the floodway, not the floodplain. And when you deal with Eagle, you might be dealing with, you're going to be dealing with wetland issues. And you can build on a wetland, okay?
Yes.
So one of the qualifications that leads to qualification is how much of this is unbuildable, which means how much of it is floodway, which is the center of the floodplain, and how much of it has such poor soil that you couldn't build on it. And those are, the floodway is determined by the Army Corps of Engineers, not by Eagle, and the soil is probably a geologist somewhere.
Geotechnical.
Yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with Eagle.
Nope.
Right. Okay.
Anyone else? Dale?
For the city attorney, do we have to determine a density level tonight, or are we just required to hold the public hearing on this cluster request for the one parcel, which is more than what we see on our screen, correct?
So the way the cluster ordinance works is your first action is just to decide whether or not it qualifies for cluster, right? So if that's the only action you take, it's just qualified for a cluster at the 1.8 units per acre.
But then subsequently, we can make a
So
determination.
the ordinance doesn't really say that you can do that. But they're permitted to proceed regardless of what your motion is tonight. They can still go ahead and take their shot. So if you are not, and I'm not suggesting this, but if you're not yet convinced that they meet the standards for the 3.1 acres, you don't have to make that finding. They can still ask for it as part of their cluster approval, but if you never make that finding, they obviously won't get approved.
So from my standpoint, it would be helpful to look at the site in its entirety to answer some of the questions we've received from the public and what's going to happen to the north and whatever. It gives me a better advantage to know if we're weighting density to the south, less density to the north, and what it's kind of look like. And to Joe's questions, like what is buildable, what is not buildable, what are we talking about? So from my standpoint, I appreciate it. I think it does warrant a cluster, it makes sense. But I just would like to see the whole parcel in its entirety as opposed to some future date, something's going to happen to the north.
So the process for that would be you just make the first determination and don't move on to the second determination.
Anybody else? Questions?
I think in summary, what the attorney said was that we can, on number 8 or number 1, depending on who's talking, that criteria, if we're comfortable, we can approve that. And then even if we don't approve it beyond that, if they come to us later and say, here's, we believe we also meet the other criteria, then we can allow more development then, in the next iteration. Is that
That is how the ordinance is written. I will say it's not typically happened where you reconsider that, but theoretically possible.
And given the fact that they don't know the answer at the moment, and we don't know the answer, I would be very comfortable answering what we know and leaving the rest for the future.
Well, and in fairness to the planning commission, this is a conceptual plan at this point too.
Exactly.
So this is conceptual, it's not the final plan.
Right.
So conceptual can also occur to the north of the stream as well.
The attorney already said we're not even looking at this plan as we vote.
Right. Right. So just given the feedback we've gotten from the residents, I think I would have a better perspective of what we were doing if I kind of had an idea how this is all going to come together now and into the future.
You have a question?
No.
Motion? I wanted to add, we got a lot of letters from your neighbors. I don't know if they're not here or whatever, but those are also part of the record. So all your work did not go for naught. And for those of you that are concerned about the deer, the city council next Monday night is having a deer, I guess, study session, Eric? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, I think that's generally what you would call it.
Yeah.
It's an item on the study session agenda.
Yes, here. So all
6 o'clock.
Yeah, all of you deer fans, 6 o'clock, right?
We're not deer fans.
Or not deer fans. Yeah. I think we'll separate you. So anyway, I just want to let you guys know that in case, because there was a lot of talk about deer. Okay, Barry.
No one else wants to. I move to make a preliminary determination that one family cluster option 1/2/2025 dated February 7th, 2025 submitted by Eureka Building Company meets the following qualification standards as set forth in section 34-3.17.2.b subsections VI and VII, permitting a maximum density of 1 units per acre, and that it be made clear to the applicant that the final granting of the one-family cluster option is dependent upon a site plan to be approved by the city council following review and recommendation by the planning commission. I will state that I'm not going any further than that. I have not really heard anybody asking for more than 1.8. I haven't heard the applicant ask for more than 1.8 units per acre, so I don't think it's necessary.
Could you amend your motion to indicate that the planning commission would be receptive to higher density based on additional information at subsequent hearings or subsequent meetings?
Okay.
I don't know that that needs to be in there.
I don't know that it has to be
The indication, he can take it for what it's worth. I don't think it should be in the motion.
Okay, but you're saying they still have the option
Theoretically, yes.
subsequently? Okay.
So, but to be clear, because I thought I heard you say VI and VII.
No, it's VIII.
There you go.
3 eyes. I think he was
Number
looking at 8, Roman numeral
Wanted to
8
be
on
sure.
that one.
6 and 8.
Who supported this motion? Did Joe?
No one did.
If it's number 8, I'll second it, sure.
No, it was 6 and 8.
Yes, you said 6 and 8, and we already discussed this, and we said that
You only
need more information to establish 6, and,
only need one.
yeah.
Well,
I am not comfortable voting for number 6. I would vote against number 6
Okay. Do you want to, Barry, you want to?
this evening, because I have no proof of that fact.
okay, then we'll just do number 8 or VIII. That makes folks happy.
And I second that motion.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Let's do a roll call vote. Cheryl?
Commissioner Aspinall?
Yay.
Brickner?
Yes.
Conigan?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Manti,
Yes.
Stimson,
Yes.
Varga,
Yes.
Ware, and Chair Treflet.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for coming. There will be more of these, so,
Basically, it's qualified for
you
less
know.
density.
Right. Not a worst case scenario, let's see.
Is it CIP next? Okay. I need a bathroom break.
Nobody cares about the capital improvement.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Capital Improvement Plan 2025-26 through 2030, 2031. The action requested is an adoption of. You have a sheet, if I need, can get a motion?
Public hearing?
It's
Public hearing?
It is a public hearing.
Oh, it is a public hearing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Really, there is nothing here. Is there anybody wish to speak to this item on the agenda, the capital improvement plan? If you haven't read it, it's interesting.
It's really long.
It's very long.
It'll put you to
All
sleep.
right. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing then.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the City of Farmington Hills Capital Improvement Plan for 2025, 2026 to 2030, 2031 be adopted and forwarded to City Council.
Second.
Okay, moved and supported. Joe, did you want to?
No, someone said second before I could. But I would just like to say, Mr. Chairman, that I'm a little bit disappointed that because this is a public hearing and I know no one's here for it, but it would have been nice if the city had made a little 3-minute presentation on what was in the capital improvement. Just like to say I'm a little disappointed that that didn't happen.
I bet they would have last month if we had been here.
You're trying to make me feel guilty.
I was gonna be here.
Me too.
Everyone else failed.
I was here. Well, I was willing.
Okay.
Okay.
You need to vote.
Cheryl, can we do a roll call?
Point taken.
Okay,
Roll call.
Steve seconded it.
Yes.
Moved and seconded, Cheryl, so we'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Aspinall?
Yep.
Brickner?
Yes.
Conigan? Grant?
Yes.
Manti,
Yes.
Stimson?
Yes.
Varga?
Yes.
Ware?
Yes.
Chair Treflet.
Yes. Okay. The public hearing is closed. Next item on the agenda is site plan 6312, 2024. Location is 34650 8 Mile Road, renovation car wash in a B3 district. Joe?
Yes, so we are looking at a renovation to an existing car wash here. Site is 1.48 acres, Zone B3. It's got a real melange of surrounding zoning. There's some B3 to the east, RC2 to the west. Livonia to the south is R4. There's a subdivision retention pond over there. And then there is also RC2 to the north, so there's multifamily zoning kind of on two sides. There's a car wash on the site, but there's also a quick oil change establishment. The quick oil change establishment isn't being altered under this plan. Some of the driveways and things around it have some slight reconfiguration, but as far as renovations to the buildings, this is focused on the car wash. So the site's accessed directly from 8 Mile Road. There's a couple of driveways. One is an entrance that's primarily for the oil change business. The other is kind of like a bifurcated entrance for the car wash. And like what the exit part of it is joined by the exit for the oil change business. You can, yeah, it's a little easier to see than it is to read about. But so there's a couple ways to get in and out of the site. So a car wash is permitted as a special land use in the B3 district, subject to PC approval and the standards of 440. And those standards are in the letter. The plans maintain the existing access to 8 Mile Road. They make several changes to the site's interior to channelize vehicles differently than it does now, particularly in the stacking lanes for the wash tunnel. There's 2 existing vacuum units that are removed and replaced with 7 new units. Each of those serves an individual vacuum space. The older units had 2 vacuums serving the spaces on either side. These are all existing setbacks. They're not proposed to change as far as the building is concerned. And you can see from the chart that they are compliant setbacks, so there's not a nonconformity here that's being perpetuated. Looking further through that dimensional standards chart in the letter, we are noting that we need a description or indication of where the loading occurs. There's supposed to be 260 square feet of loading. And then as far as the rooftop equipment, it's screened by the existing parapet. The new parapet does appear that it will continue to screen the rooftop units. There are some required conditions of B3 development that we've addressed here. The relevant one really is about the marginal access drive. There's really not one to connect to in this area. There are only 3 B3 parcels here. The parcel to the east is actually connected through to the parcel to its east, but that's actually not a marginal access drive. It's a driveway from one parking lot to another. We didn't see pedestrian access provided on the plan. I mean, it is a tunnel car wash, so it's not like you're really going to be accessing it as a pedestrian to begin with, but that is a standard of our ordinance, so we have to address it. We have some use standards for vehicle washes. So they're compliant with most of them. The one that we found when we were looking at the plans that was not in compliance is that the vacuums, once relocated, are about 75 feet from an RC2 district rather than the required 100. They were compliant with the parking requirements and off-street parking dimensions. We did note under dead-end aisles that including the vacuum spaces, the aisle includes more than 8 spaces that goes to the back, like to the north. Two-way access is provided to allow a means of turning around. Also, the vacuum spaces are a little wider than standard parking spaces as well, so we don't really anticipate too many problems with people trying to turn around. As far as off-street loading is concerned, I already addressed that standard, but we do need to see something on the plan showing us where that's occurring. We always defer to engineering on acceleration and deceleration passing lanes. Looking at site landscaping, we find that the site is generally compliant. They are adding a fair amount of landscaping in that northwestern portion of the site where you have those vacuum spaces. There's quite a few trees going in there between that part of the site and the neighboring RC2 district. They are removing one tree and they are replacing it, so they are meeting the tree replacement requirement. We had some notes we would like to see on the lighting plan and a couple of areas where it's non-compliant at the property line, so there will be some adjustments that need to be made there. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Joe?
It's my interpretation from looking at this, that the existing vacuum stations, which are being relocated, but the existing ones don't even seem to be 100 feet.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that true? They were not in compliance before?
Well, the standard didn't exist when they were built, so.
My next question was, how did that happen?
Well,
so they were non-conforming.
The standard did not apply to multifamily residential at the time, but now it does.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. Steve?
So I guess I'm looking at this, the building itself isn't changing,
Other than in appearance, yeah.
other than appearance.
Architectural package, yeah.
Really, they're not really adding any new parking or pavement, right?
I mean, they're not expanding the amount of the site that's paved. They're moving some things around, and the parking count
Yeah,
is
so
slightly
they're
changing.
moving the
but-
vacuum units.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, why is this in front of us? I mean, for a new building
It's-
facade, we normally don't see these.
It's discretionary because of the need for the variance for the vacuums.
Because of what?
Because of the need for the variance for the vacuums, the vacuum location.
So it's about the vacuum?
Yes, exactly.
Really?
That's what brought it into the realm of discretionary, and therefore it had to become a planning commission item.
So
for
none
that
of the
reason.
lighting is changing? I mean, all this is currently out of compliance today?
They're going to have to adjust the lighting to become compliant with the ordinance. But, I mean, most of what's not compliant on the plan is not compliant today, correct?
So I guess real quickly, if they weren't moving the vacuums, this wouldn't be in front of us?
Correct.
Okay.
The proponents? Do you want to hear from the proponents? You might have more questions. Sure.
No, I wasn't gonna ask him.
You want to come up and give your name and street address, and we'll hear your plan?
Hello, my name is Eric Miles. I'm the project architect with Krieger Clad Architects located at 400 East Lincoln in Royal Oak.
Jamie Antonovich with Atwell, 12745 23 Mile, Shelby.
How you doing? My name is Brian Kanaya, 199 Pierce Street, Birmingham, Michigan. I'm the Director of Operations.
Okay. Who wants to present what you're going to do?
I guess I can talk a little bit to, you know, what's being done on the site layout. You know, modernization of the vacuums as stated, instead of the old pedestal style, a central vacuum system. I will note that the producer itself is over 100 feet away. It's just the vacuum stalls that will be within that 100 feet. There'll be some pay stations added to improve customer flow into the building. Other than that, yeah, we're generally adhering to the same pavement area, just some modifications for the layout.
Are you going to monthly pay? There we are.
Monthly pay?
You're going to monthly pay?
Yes, we are. We're currently on that.
So you're going to put cameras in to read license plates? And
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about that? And I'm sorry to use up everybody's time, but I'm not one of those people who wants to wash my car every week. And now, are there any places I can go to without a monthly pay?
Yes, you can.
Where can I wash my car?
My car wash. Our car washes offer memberships and they offer paid washes as well. You don't have to be a membership customer.
I'm sorry, this is a question I have for a reason. How much is it to get a car wash?
Well, it varies.
No, I drive my car up, I just want to, I
You
just want
wanted
to wash.
just a basic wash?
I want
$7.
I want a wash that includes the underside because of the potential for rust. I'd like to do that once a month during the winter.
$10.
It's $10.
Yes.
Okay.
And you get free vacuums.
And then what's the monthly amount?
The monthly amount for that package is $20 with the underbody wash.
Okay.
Joe Manti special.
Barry?
I'm thinking of banning these membership car washes, but I have no power. I have no power. Yes.
My question is, I'm kind of confused about the only thing we're here for is really the vacuums, and so are you moving the vacuums? Or I know you have 2 vacuums now, and you're gonna go to, what is it, 6 vacuums?
They're moving them.
Well, there's the existing, you know, older style coin-operated kind of pedestal that are being removed completely. A central vacuum system that has no charge is being put in. So each space will have arms next to it. You pull up and you can vacuum.
Okay, but the problem is it's going to be closer to the back of the lot than it is currently.
It's gonna be roughly the same, but based on the ordinance now, it doesn't comply.
Yes, no, I understand.
So because of the change, my understanding is that's why there's a question.
Yeah, no, I understand that too, but I'm just trying to figure out is it going in the same place?
No.
Roughly.
No, it's.
He's right here.
Yeah, there's an expansion of it, so, I mean, this is the demolition plan, but it's along the west side of the parking area.
There's a demolition plan, and then there's a development
Correct,
plan. And you
yes.
look at the two plans, and they're
Okay.
different.
Okay. Anyone else have a question?
Do I have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
So are we approving, the staff, are we approving a plan that shows the moving of vacuums? Or are we approving a plan that shows the whole site?
I mean, it is the site.
It's a site plan review.
You are approving you are approving the whole site plan.
The whole site is proposed here.
It's
You
just
are-
contingent on
Through
that
the chair?
variance.
You're approving the plan that's been submitted, which shows some work in addition to what Mr. Connigan said. But as I understand it, the new vacuums, which won't meet ordinance requirements, that'll have to go to the ZBA once you're done. So assuming you approve it, you will add to the motion sheet that you got, subject to a ZBA variance for the vacuums.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm confused, because I thought the only reason they were in front of us was because they want to update the vacuums.
But you can't grant the variance as the planning
Right.
commission.
It's not
You
within
can
the
approve
authority
the
of the planning
plan for
commission.
where they are. The variance for their location has to go to the ZBA. Because it's relief from the ordinance, and that's their province.
Oh, the request is relief.
They,
What they need to do for the vacuums is a relief from the
yeah,
zoning board.
yeah, but they need both. They need your approval and they need their approval.
Yes. Dale?
Yeah, I've got a motion, everybody's ready. I move that site plan 6312-2024 dated December 18, 2024, submitted by Krieger Klatt Architects be approved because it appears to meet all applicable requirements of the zoning ordinance, subject to the following conditions, all outstanding issues identified in Gifford Webster's January 16, 2025 review shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city planner. All outstanding issues identified in the city engineer's January 24, 2025 inter-office correspondence shall be addressed to a reasonable satisfaction to the city engineer, and all outstanding issues identified in the fire marshal's January 8, 2025 inter-office correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the fire marshal, and that this approval is subject to
ZBA variance for the
ZBA
vacuums.
variance for the vacuum locations.
Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
I am opposed, and I would like to go on record as saying why. I'm opposed because I am not convinced that they have done enough for noise control for the vacuums. Obviously, the reason I did this is we can't tell the zoning board what to do.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks. Good luck.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is site plan 65-12-2024, planned unit development number 4 of 2021. Location is 32905 Northwestern.
Okay, so this is an interesting one because this is a planned unit development that was approved in 2021, and we are now looking at the final site plan for that planned unit development. So a lot of our planned unit developments are approved with the final site plan concurrent with the PUD. They didn't do that this way, so they had to come back for final site plan. You may be wondering why the gap between 2021 and 2025. There was a lot to do here. They had to vacate some streets, they had to get through engineering, they had to put together their development agreement, and they're through all that at this point. So now they're back for their final site plan approval. So they have submitted a revised plan. I'm going to point out a couple things in my letter that they've addressed on that revised plan, and then we'll turn it over to the applicant to explain some things. And the first thing I wanted to to call your attention to was, let's see, lighting. So they were addressing only the southern portion of the site on the lighting plan that I reviewed for this letter. And there were some informational deficiencies there, so they've submitted a new plan for that. And then there is a detail for the dumpster enclosure now. Mechanical equipment has been addressed. And then we called out a lack of sidewalks down Highview Avenue or Ludden Street, and they have agreed to make some changes to the site to provide sidewalks. And that affected the tree count. So we're going to let the applicant explain how that affected the tree count and what they're asking for with relation to that. If you have any questions for me about anything that's in the letter, I can address them, but I won't belabor it because most of it is kind of checking to see if it meets the standards that were established in the PUD, and it does.
You're up.
Good evening, Tom Herbst, with the developer and the owner, Farmington Hills Lofts LLC, 353 North Old Woodward in Birmingham. I have Jennifer Roth with Atwell, civil engineer, and I have Johanna, the architect from Humphreys Architectural Firm. Like he said, we've been before you a number of times during the PUD process. It's been a while. We're glad to be back. As he mentioned, we've vacated some roads, we've combined some lots, we've submitted and gone back and forth with planning, and we feel like we've answered all of their questions. But between the three of us, we're happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
First question, is this a brownfield site?
There will be a brownfield request with this project as well, yes.
Okay. And access to the courtyards. I see you've got a pool in one, you've got two courtyards in the top.
Correct.
How do you get a stretcher in there if somebody gets hurt out in that area?
I don't know if you can see it on this plan, but there is a main entrance to the north there that goes to the lobby, which is double doors, which is more than large enough to get a stretcher through.
So you're talking about you would park toward Northwestern then and not come into this parking between the buildings?
Correct. The main office is in the upper northwest corner, which is along Northwestern, and there is parking there. So yes, and that's where the main office, the main entrance, double doors. Would be and two-story access. There's more than enough entry and access to the courtyard that way. And then there's a tunnel that connects both courtyards to each other.
Okay. And are you providing barbecues in that area?
Yes, there are barbecues in the courtyards.
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
We were supposed to talk about tree issues, right?
Yes.
Isn't that why he said you were coming up? What's going on?
So, yes, obviously the site has many trees on it now, and obviously we are building much more dense than what's there now, and we will absolutely put as many trees back as we can fit in there. It's to our benefit to have it landscaped as well. But with some of the requests that we've gone through over the last 4 years with parking counts and additional sidewalks, it's impossible to get every number there. So based on all of the previous concessions we've given, and as far as parking counts, as well as the off-site improvements, I know it's been a long time, so if you're not aware, but we are installing over $2 million worth of off-site improvements that do not benefit our site at all, to the benefit of the city, and we're happy to do so. But in exchange for that, we've asked for a variance on, if there is, again, once we do the final landscape plan, if there is a shortage in the number of tree count, we are asking for a variance.
I did not know that you were putting in $2 million of off-site improvements. Just, could you give us an example out of curiosity? Just a small.
Yep, I will let the engineers.
I did not know.
So of all the roads you're seeing, we're going to pave the vertical roads, Greening and Highview. We're paving Mulferton and Rexwood, all the way.
So you're
to
paving roads
And we're
off-site?
putting all new utilities in.
Uh-huh.
All those roads, we're paving Ludden, and then we're doing some work further south. Not paving roads, but, and I do have an exhibit I can show you,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then we're adding utilities. And so that was the request, was to pave these roads.
south of this
We're
site.
taking
Okay.
utilities even further south.
Then I imagine the tree issue was paying into the tree fund?
Correct.
Okay, and you're going to do that?
We're asking for a variance on whatever the shortage is.
Waiver,
Ah, that's what we're talking about.
waiver, Joe.
Okay, and how big a waiver are you asking for?
Yeah, what is the number?
Right now, it looks like the requirement was 125 trees. We're providing 65. So the difference is we're short 60 trees.
And how much is it per tree?
$400 a tree.
So you're asking for $24,000?
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to know what we were voting on.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Right here.
Yes,
Right here.
Danielle.
I understand that you're saying you can't put the trees in, but not being a person who's seen the actual site, can you help me understand the why? Like, is it that with all of the, things that you're building on the site, is that what causes you to have the shortage?
Correct. We're maxing out the site right with, there's two different buildings. There's a 4-story building to the north, a 3-story building to the south. We have a detention pond, and then we have surface parking to be able to service all of those rental units. So there's just not enough remaining green space to put the trees back.
Gotcha, okay.
And we will put them on the exterior again, but we're putting at the planning's request, we're putting a sidewalk down high view, which again eliminates available space to put trees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for them.
Okay.
Our attorney, can we make a condition that we waive the additional trees in exchange for them putting in the roads, that they don't have to?
They're already doing the roads.
I know they said they're gonna do it, but that's what we have to have a reason to waive the trees.
Oh, he wants to tie it to.
Because they're doing the roads.
I guess through the chair,
Yeah.
Yes.
they're required to do it under their approved plans, so they're gonna do it whether you tie it to your motion or not.
Okay.
So it will happen.
Your bus stops and,
Just a question.
bikes.
Historically, folks, 15 years ago, Dale might be able to back this up. It was perhaps too common, not uncommon, to, when a situation like this came up, to excuse half of the amount that was not able to be met in terms of the donation to the tree fund. Dale, do you have any recollections about that?
No.
Okay.
No, all I do know is that the tree fund has been in the past flush with cash.
Okay.
Almost to the extent they're unable to get it out as fast as they'd like. Now, staff may want to comment on that, what your fund balance is.
I think that's a pretty accurate characterization. Yeah.
Yeah. So from my standpoint, given the community investment that is compelling, that's on the record, not necessarily tie-barred to a motion, I have no problem, from my stand, waiving 65 trees.
So thank you for that, and I'll just say that historically, back when we used to waive it all, it wasn't flush. It was broke 15 years ago, 15 years, 20 years ago, okay?
Okay.
Danielle?
Yes, Danielle.
Just out of efficiency's sake and maybe possibly common sense, but if there isn't a need, there's not a driving need to have the tree there, why would we need to waive it at all? Why wouldn't it just be an amendment of the design?
Because they take the trees and they plant them in other places, like all the ones that get run over on Orchard Lake Road. The cars
Okay,
run
so
over.
then let me rephrase the question. Again, going back to the efficiency of the design of the overall city. I get what you're saying, I do, I honestly get that. But based on us being flush with cash, and we're not moving as quickly to replant trees in identified areas, how do we know that we actually need as many more trees as we think? that,
To breathe.
It's just the formula in the ordinance, you know, I mean, it's just the formula in the ordinance. The ordinance doesn't take into consideration how much money's in the tree fund or any of those other.
but I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about money to a plan of where we want to plant trees across the city of Farmington Hills. The need versus the reality, right? If we haven't updated the tree plan, are we, and yes, it's a real question, because again,
No, I
going back to the plan of how we envision a city,
We have a plan that, you know, Charmaine is a registered landscape architect, and she typically handles that with, is it Shepherds?
There's a few different contractors the city works with. Annually, we try to plant a number of them in, you know, areas where they would have, you know, impact for the city essentially. But the administrative aspect of that, I mean, we don't really have the staffing to go out there doing as many as we'd like to, for example. There's a lot of work there, but we do, you know, try to get a good number in each year that as time and resources allow, basically, so.
All those pine trees down 12 Mile, they're dying off because they're the original plantings, the Austrian pines.
Right.
And they're dying off,
They're being replanted.
and they'll be replanted.
They have been, you guys have been replanting the evergreens on 12 Mile.
Yep.
Only back in 86, 87.
When the boulevard was made. Yeah.
Right. So from my standpoint, this is a PUD, it's plan unit development, gives us flexibility. The ordinance allows a waiver. It allows a waiver. I don't think it says it has to be, it allows it. So it gives us the discretion if we, in our infinite wisdom, just hear that there's a benefit to the community, that we work with the developer, and they indicate that, hey, we've paved roads and done off-site stuff that don't necessarily, you know, benefit our project, maybe indirectly, but benefit the community at large, then that gives the planning commission within the ordinance to say, okay, we'll waive those. They've done substantially what they need to do based that they got hard surface and they can't put trees everywhere. They've done as many trees they can as possible. I'm not hearing the planning department come to us and say, no, we want that money because we have a need on a to do some planning somewhere else. In the absence of that, I'm in favor of a waiver, a full waiver.
Okay.
when you say full waiver, you mean for the whole 65?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. I just was clear.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the whole way, all.
Okay.
So are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
I was just gonna say, yes, a couple of folks next to me are looking at the clock, so
Okay.
let's move along.
I move that site plan 6512-2024 dated January 2nd, 2025, submitted by Tom Herbst, be approved because it appears to meet all applicable requirements of the zoning chapter subject to the following condition. All outstanding issues identified in the Giffords-Webster's January 22, 2025 review shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city planner. All outstanding issues identified by the city engineers January 27, 2025 inter-office correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the engineer, city engineer, and all outstanding issues identified by the fire marshals January 22nd, 2025 inter-office correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the fire marshal, and that the requested tree waiver of, how many trees? 65? 60 trees be granted, period.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
What am I supposed to say when I oppose?
Nay.
Nay? Okay.
Say aye.
Nothing's unanimous around here, Tom.
Are you saying nay?
I said nay. I
Okay.
don't support
We got it.
a complete waiver. I would have supported any partial waiver.
Both of you? Sure. Okay, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yes. We have a request for bathroom break, so
Just like
5 minutes? Okay.
Well, we do have a 10 o'clock basketball game, don't we?
Sounds nice, check.
Okay, mics are back on.
You were saying?
Yes, I'm looking for a motion to set for public hearing April
I make a
7th.
motion.
I move, oh,
I would just say next available planning commission agenda. In the event we don't have quorum, things happen. It's always good to generalize it a little bit. Next available agenda.
Okay, fine.
It's not February.
You're good with that, Daniel?
April.
Okay, make the motion.
Not February.
oh, you doing it, Tangi, or me?
Go ahead.
I move that draft zoning text amendment 2024 be set for public hearing for the planning commission's next available regular meeting agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those, thank you, Joe. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, it was apparently unanimous this time. Next item, zoning text amendment 4 of 2024. It's a zoning ordinance 34. I'm not going to read the whole thing. We need to set that for public hearing also.
Make a motion.
Yes?
I move that draft zoning text amendment 4, 2024 be set for public hearing for the planning commissioners' next available regular meeting agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Next item, Historic District Commission Annual Report. All we have to do is accept it.
Can I make a motion?
Please.
I move that the 2024 Historic District Commission Annual Report be accepted.
Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Chair?
Aye.
I'd like to make a comment that they do a fantastic job for the community and their report, and we appreciate it every year when it comes in. If you can pass that along to the commission.
All right.
And who supported that?
Everyone.
Thank
No.
you.
The support, yeah.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Not hearing any. Another unanimous, Cheryl.
Got it.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Planning Commission 2024 Annual Report. Adoption of the report.
I move that we adopt the 2024 Planning Commission Annual Report because it's so well put together by a bunch of very intelligent people.
Yeah, I would like to add it. Well assembled, and we got a lot done, so it's nice to see it in a comprehensive report, how much we accomplished.
So that's your support?
That is my support.
Cool. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, making progress. We're down to election of officers.
I make a motion that the current officers who are eligible for one more year of service in their current positions be nominated for re-election for another year because they're doing such a great job.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. That's the election of officers. We need approval of minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve our minutes from the December 19th, 2024 regular meeting, January 16th, 2025 special meeting, and January 23rd, 2025 regular meeting.
For support? Support. Moved and supported. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We have minutes.
I love this.
Okay, item number 7, public comment. Let the record show that there is no one left.
No, he's hiding back there.
That's one of ours.
I know she is, but
You didn't have
you don't know if you want to talk.
Okay, no public comment. Commissioners' comments. Joe?
Yes, I've stated in the past, my feeling that the site of the Boys Republic would potentially make a nice park where the city Parks and Rec has said repeatedly that in that general area of the city, we need additional parks. I would like to point out that this might be an opportunity for the city to begin negotiation to acquire the land north of the creek.
The problem is, it's landlocked.
You can walk across. So to finish my thought, the city has a park in that, in that general area, if you will. And that park has no parking lot. And, yes, the one down by Grand River, there's no place to park a car. And I think that we could get a big hunk of land, nature, real cheap, that would have limited access because it doesn't have any parking.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Angie, do you have any comments? Do you have any comments? Barry?
I'm back from traveling the world. I'm glad to be back in Farmington Hills because I miss this place.
Yes.
Move on.
All good.
We're good?
No comment.
We miss Barry.
No comment.
No comment.
Okay, all you Wolverines, let's adjourn the meeting.
I can say one thing.
Yes.
Go State, go U of M,
Ten?
Always.
hopefully meet in the finals.